you very much for joining us today. It's our third information session about common approaches work with the Social Finance Fund. And today we are going to talk about the data collection for social finance intermediaries and how to align with the Common Impact Data Standard. And myself, I'm Lorenza Perrin, and I'm in charge of our work with the Social Finance Fund. And before, about my role, and before we start about our role within the Social Finance Fund, so we are working with the 3 wholesalers to support the co-creation of the impact measurement approach of the Social Finance Fund. And we will support the participants, so wholesalers, social finance intermediaries, social purpose organization, in implementing the Common Impact Data Standard. And the purpose is to make it easier to measure and share the impact of the work of each participant in the program. As you may know already, one of the key objectives of the Social Finance Fund is to support and strengthen impact measurement and management practices within the social finance market. So I would say that our work is a tiny part of the biggest picture. The government and wholesalers are working also on other initiatives that will help the participants in having more, like, advancing their impact measurement practices. We have design information sessions that are really organized to inform about our role. So we're not going to talk about other initiatives. So it's really how we've developed and how we implement the Compact Data Standards in the Social Finance Fund. And today's session is part of a series of different information sessions. The goal is to share with you transparently how things are progressing, give you key information, and more importantly, hear back from you, hear your questions, how we can, better communicate and better inform you on what are the requirements. So maybe today you're going to hear, things that you already heard, maybe new things, but maybe also you won't understand everything. So we just to make sure that you understand what we're doing, because we know that it's not easy to understand sometimes. So yeah, you definitely hear things that we haven't communicated yet today. So I think it's important things too. So I think be careful, hear them. So we have a YouTube channel of the past information sessions. So we presented in detail our guiding principle, our role with the Social Finance Fund already, what's the common approach and how it works in practice. We also, last information session, talk about the high-level process map of the implementation of our data standard for the Social Finance Fund. So we're going to, I think my colleagues already put the link. So if you want to look at it, and we have also different documents, PDF document, if you could take a look at it. And today we are going to specifically discuss about impact data collection and using the Common Impact Data Standard for social finance intermediaries specifically. And then we'll have next info session in April. And this is going to be very focused on software acquisition. So maybe at the end of the session today, you have a lot of questions about software, but we're going to have another one discussing that in the next months. And then we'll have other info session as our work progress based on the feedback, the question you're asking, the gaps we're seeing. We already have a few ideas, but if you have ideas, don't hesitate to tell us at the end also what you'd like to see and hear from us. So today on the agenda, we are going to discuss the benefits of the data standard for social finance intermediaries and their investees, what impact data will be collected and when, and how to align with the data standard for the Social Finance Fund. We have a question and answer period at the end also, and again, this will not be put online. So now I'd like to hand over to my colleague Kate, who will briefly remind you what Common Approach is all about.
Thanks, Lorenza. Merci beaucoup. So today, y'all are going to learn mostly about one of our standards called the Common Impact Data Standard. And as this graphic illustrates, the common approach to impact measurement is actually 4 community-driven standards that work together. So you're going to learn about the Common Impact Data Standard, but that just want you to know that that's part of the story. There are these other standards. They are not required as part of the Social Finance Fund, but we think they're useful and you might like to know about them. For example, common foundations. We're just finishing up a research paper that shows using structural equation modeling that the practices we've detailed in common foundations are a very good indication of measurement being useful for management, which is a really key idea. The common framework, for example, is a key tool to help investors like SFIs make sense of the data that your investees are already gathering without burdening them with more reporting obligations. So we think all of this is useful to you. We hope you'll check it out. But today we're learning about the Common Impact Data Standard. I'm going to skip over this very quickly because I know we're straight on time, but we're aligned with other organizations was the key point of the vision, working with other standard setters and moving on to our guiding principles. What we want you to know is that at the core of our work is that we are shaped by our users. As SFIs, as you are, become our users, you become an important voice in shaping what we do and making it work for you. We are also very aware that impact measurement is a source of power. And standards in particular can be a source of power. So we are at our core, deep in our values and what we do, working to make sure that what we do places the power with those operating charities or social purpose businesses, rather than, I'm sorry to say, with you, the investors. But we're giving you, the investors, tools to really equip those you invest in to take charge of their impact measurement and use that as a tool to communicate with you what they need and what they're achieving. That is said in more words on the next 2 slides, which I think we can now skip over because I've highlighted the key points. Back to you, Laurentia.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate. So we just wanted to take few minutes to highlight what are the benefits of the Common Impact Data Standards and why we think you as a funder, so we're using SFIs for all type of funders that will be part of the Social Finance Fund, and your investees, we call them SPOs also in the presentation, but it's the organization that you're in. So as the heart of what we're doing at our work is the challenge of balancing between the flexibility and uniformity. So on one hand, we want SPOs to have the flexibility to choose the most relevant and useful indicators, metrics, methodologies for their own impacts. But on the other hand, as just Kate said, funders and investors need some uniformity in the way, impact data is collected, the way impact data is managed, for them to receive and aggregate and have some insights from their portfolio. So for you as an investor, what are the key benefits? So first, the data standards, it is the data collection for investors. So you will spend less time collecting data from your investors because you won't have to convert all of your investors' spreadsheet within your own spreadsheet. Also, we hope it's going to help you also to ease the reporting to your wholesaler. So you will spend less time to report to your wholesaler because you know that ESDC is asking for SPO level data for impact data. So it's a lot of data. So we hope that you will be able to report this data in one simple file export. Also, it gives some flexibility because you can use your own outcomes framework, your own indicators, and it's very adaptable to each specific context. So depending on your regions, sectors, cultures, you can adapt it and make it it's flexible enough to adapt it to your own needs. We hope also it's going to give you access to relevant data. So how a standard work is that you can have very simple impact data or also very rich, very complete impact data. So you have access to the best data that your investors have that maybe you currently don't have, but we know that they're collecting it, but you don't have access to it. So for example, I don't know, maybe you don't have collection method of the indicator or description of the indicator or qualitative data. So hope that with our standard, you can have access to this kind of information. Also, what is important to know is that the data standard is interoperable with other existing standards. So you will be able to use and connect with all the standards you may be potentially already using, such as, I don't know, impact norms, SDGs, IRIS Plus metrics, GRI, ISO standards, etc. Also, it's interoperable with existing IT systems. So maybe you're using a platform, a software platform, for example, for financial performance. And what we could do is like we could align it with the data standard, and it will help you to avoid duplication of effort and improve, I think, your capacity to analyze data if you don't have like 5 platforms, but just one platform for all your data. And finally, well, at the end of the line, what we want to do is the objective is to make it easier for you to analyze and aggregate the data to have more, informed investment decision, more like strategic planning for your fund too. If we look on the other hand, what are the benefits for your investors? And as Kate mentioned, it's the reason why we exist. But the data standards reduce the reporting burdens for your for your portfolio companies. So they will be able to easily share impact data without having to re-enter information into many forums, many platforms, log into a platform for each investor. So the idea is that they have their own platform and they can share easily this information. Also, they have the flexibility to use the measurement approach, collection methods, tools, indicators that is the most appropriate to the context. So that's why it's very important. We're not telling them, oh, you should collect these 5 indicators that I'm collecting as a fund. They're going to decide which indicators they want to collect, and they won't have to be burdened with irrelevant indicators that are, poorly tailored to their needs. Also, we strongly believe that when using a software, and we're going to talk about this today also, but it will enable SPOs to refine, improve their impact measurement practices. So, many software, they guide the data collection processes. So, yeah, I think, software can help to develop theory of change, select indicators. So we think it's a good tool also to empower social purpose organization. Finally, better impact, because with all the data in one place, their own software rather than investor software, SPO are able to analyze the data more accurately, more comprehensively, and they can also learn from the data and make more informed decisions for having maximizing the impact. So it's really about changing the way we're seeing reporting. It's not reporting, it's really about impact performance. What I want you to know, what is really important, is that the Common Impact Data Standard, it will not fundamentally change how you and your investors are doing impact measurement. So it does not replace existing bank of indicators or taxonomies or software. It's really a system to organize the data that create interoperability of impact measurement by knitting together existing standards, tools, methods, and data. So the data standard is not going to tell you, oh, you should measure this or that indicator, or you should use this standard or this methodology for your fund, or you should, refine your theory of change. We're not going to tell you that. And but however, also wholesalers are going to be developing be developing some support also to help you on this journey you SFIs, and also there is going to be some programs for SPOs to support them on that journey for impact measurement. So there's a long document if you want to know more about what Common Approach contributes to the IMM and ESG ecosystem, what it is, what it's not. If my colleagues can put the link in the chat, I think it can be useful also for you to know. Okay. So now, if we look at what impact data will be collected for the Social Finance Fund and when, we try to make it easy for you to understand it. So I have one slide that I'm going to spend a bit time on it, but it's really about giving you an overview of what we'll collect with the Common Impact Data Standard. So what I'm presenting here, really, it's the minimum data that SFIs need to collect about the impact of the organization they invest in. So there is going to be additional data that will be required to report on, such as, I don't know, the SFI itself, information about investment, or organizational information about the SPOs. We are not going to present that today. Also, your wholesalers may have specific requirements. So what we're presenting here does not also replace the specific requirements established by each wholesaler in agreement with SFIs. So recommend that you refer to your site letter or talk to the people in charge of reporting in your wholesalers team if you want to know more about that. So you can see here, to make it easier and more, I think, digestible for SFIs and their SPOs, we are proposing a phased approach where required data is slowly and carefully augmented. So we're going to start with phase 1, where SFIs need to collect demographic data about the management team and board members of the SPOs they have invested in. So a quick information on that. How this data is going to be collected and what's the frequency this data is going to be collected has not been decided yet. So it's a high risk, it's a complicated question because the population of board members and management team are small, known, and there is a high risk of re-identification because many people could see this data, because we're talking about SFIs seeing this data, wholesalers seeing this data, ESDC seeing this data. So it raises a lot of questions that we know that require community consultation, careful deliberation. So we have put a document a couple of months ago that we will put in the chat also, that detail those questions. There are, like, I think 9 quick questions. And to answer those questions, Approach has set up a group of demographic data experts and some social finance fund participants. So we have wholesalers, some SFIs, and some potential SPOs also, that will meet a couple of times in the next few weeks. And we hope that we will have a clear recommendation for social finance participants in May, and maybe an implementation plan in June or July this year to start this phase 1 to collect this data. Phase 2 will start in April 2025, and it's when SFI start to collect from SPO their intended stakeholders. So it can be regional, for example, regional and demographic characteristic of customers or beneficiaries, intended outcomes, the indicators that the SPOs have selected to measure progress towards those outcomes, and the SDGs to which the SPOs outcomes contribute. This will be collected annually for new investment made during the year, and it's going to be updated only if the SPO changed their intended stakeholders, outcome indicators, or SDGs. Then we have phase 3, will start in April 2026, and then it's when SFI start to collect annual impact data that SPOs have collected to measure progress towards intended outcomes and indicators. What I want you to know about those phases also is that it pertains to the whole social finance fund. So wholesaler, SFIs, SPO will move from phase 1 to phase 2 together, etc. But within the phase, wholesalers and SFIs have the flexibility to develop custom timelines for their investors. So it's flexible. It's very flexible. So if, for example, the social finance fund is in phase 3, a wholesaler may decide that a new SFI does not need to meet the phase 3 requirements until 2 years after the close of the deal. So this allows also, wholesalers, SFIs, to adapt to newly funded entities or small entities and give them a reasonable timeline to implement the data standard. Other cases, also some SFIs may already have more, data, more established, more complex data. And then wholesaler can decide also collaboratively with the SFI to collect more information earlier than the phases that we're showing here. So as you see, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we start very simply. However, one of the fund objective is also to collect increasingly rich and complex impact data. So we may have subsequent phases where more impact data will be collected. For example, baseline of an indicator, dates the data was collected by the SPO, relationship between the output and the outcome. So it's really more rich and more complex data. And then, but for you to know is that SFIs will be consulted and will have ample lead time before any new data collection requirements come into it. And what I want you to know is that this data is going to be more complex, more multidimensional, more interconnected, and we think it will give you more powerful insights at every level for every stakeholder. And to collect this more complex, more multidimensional and interconnected data, it will also require the use of a software or a database. And that's what we're going to see now. This is in French. So as many maybe of you may have already found, trying to combine, compare, aggregate impact data in a spreadsheet of different SPOs can break Excel. What the Common Impact Data Standard can do is to structure the data so that your SPOs, very different, dissimilar spreadsheet, they have their own spreadsheet, for example, with their own impact measurements. So they have their own framework, they have their own indicators, they have their own themes, their own outcomes, can self-sort into your own spreadsheet. And what's very important is that the data standard does not do that. It enables software to do it. So actually, how does it work is that the software records impact data. So you can put the outcomes you're trying to achieve. So for example, if you have an outcome such as improve access to affordable housing, how you link those outcomes to more global themes. So maybe you link it to SDGs. Actually, SDGs are required for social finance funds. So you have to link it, for example, to SDG 11. But maybe you have your own themes, your own custom themes, and you link this outcome to your own theme that is, for example, here, affordable housing. And then for each outcome, you can provide one indicator. So for example, I don't know, number of people that have access to affordable housing, but also to a couple of indicators. So it can be around number of units, can be around different indicators. What the data standard can do also is to enable software to record data about the data, such as the method of the collection of the indicator, what's the baseline of the indicator, when was the indicator reported, the methodology behind it, etc. What's this magic then is that software can talk to each other. So they put the data exactly the right place, even though it's a very, very different software with very, very different functionalities. And I'm showing you this. Maybe you don't understand it. I don't understand it either, but they share impact data with JSON LD files. How you can see, it's machine readable files. So it's like exporting and importing CSV files. But it's much more, like, I would say it's much more interesting because it preserves the rich relationship between the different fields of impact data that a CSV file cannot do. So if you link one indicator to a couple of outcomes, or you have one outcome linking to different themes, then a CSV means that you have duplicates in your database. With a JSON LD file, you don't have it. So we don't want duplicates because we know it's complexified the analysis of data. So I showed you a couple of technical things. I think maybe you're now wondering, okay, well, but what do I do now? And what we want to present you now is some key steps that are first steps that are required for the social finance fund. And then we're going to give you some activities that we recommend you to align to help you for aligning with the Common Impact Data Standard. So first, well, I gave you the punch already, but one of the required activities is that the SFI must use the online software. There are a couple of options depending on your current situation, and we're really here to help you on this journey. So potentially you're already using an online software. Perfect, it's done. I'm going to show you in the next slide what are the different online software. You don't have to do anything. Potentially, you're already using a software. You have maybe a custom platform, and what we mentioning here is software, any kind of software. So maybe it's for financial performance software, maybe it's a CRM. So it's really any IT tool that you're using today to collect and store impact data. And what we can do is to collect and store impact data also in this software. So how we're going to work if you're in this case is that we're going to contact your software provider or your internal technical team to discuss potential alignments, and we are here to support the alignment process of this software. So we offer up to 6 hours of free technical support to do that. Maybe you're not using a software yet. Maybe you're using an Excel. It's like highly like this, but maybe you don't have a software. So you will have to choose online software. Well, you can see also that below we know that we know that you're potentially using a software, so Excel. So we are going to accommodate the use of spreadsheet tools for phase 1 and 2. I'm going to discuss that later, but yeah. And when you're in this case, we are going to help you choose a software, and we give each SFI, so it's really custom support in choosing the software that is the best fit for your needs, your impact measurement needs, and your internal capacities, to make sure that you're choosing a long-term option. In French, and then these are the software that have aligned with the Common Impact Data Standards. So we have different tiers of alignment. Basic tier is really basic level data. Actually, when the minimum requirements for social finance fund is basic tier. So all those software that we're presenting here can be used in the social finance fund program. Essential tier is more complex data, and then full tier. So we currently have different software that are either aligned or in the process of alignment. So meaning that in the next few months, they will be aligned. As I said at the beginning, we're going to have next info session dedicated to software. So we're going to give a more detailed overview of each software, give you some information about them, and then also give you some information around how you can talk to other software if you want the software to align. And as you see here, there's a couple of software. Some software are some software are free. Some software are very specific for SPOs. Some of them are more specific for funders. So I think my colleague gave you the link to the different software, but we recommend you to look at this different software. And if you don't find a software that suits your needs, just introduce us to the software if you have a preferred software, or we can discuss also going to see together other type of software. Then the SFI must collect and import impact data from SPOs into the software. So each SPO, so here you can see the 3 different boxes. We have each SPO that are using different software. They put the information into the software, then they import this data in a JSON LD file. As I said already before, for phase 1 and 2, we're going to maybe accept we're going to accept CSV formats. But and then the SFI is importing common impact data standard files into the online software. And then when you have this, you're able to export all your impact data, all the impact data from all of your portfolio into one single file that you will have to send to your wholesaler when they ask you for annual reporting. And then wholesaler can have data from each SFIs directly with just one file, and they all have exactly, the wholesaler will have exactly the same information as you from all the SPO of the social finance fund they have invested in. Now we're going to see some of the recommended activities that you could put in place to ensure that your SPOs can actually submit the correct data in the correct format. So in order for you to meet your own requirements, we have some recommendation for you. So the first one is that the SFI can assess SPO's impact measurement practices to make sure that the SPO will be able to submit then the data that the SFI is required to submit to wholesalers. So make sure that the SPO, when you will have to do your reporting, can actually send you some indicators, some themes, and some outcomes as we saw before. We have a self-assessment for common foundations. So what we're saying is that SPOs should be able to answer yes to common foundation 1 and 2, and then be able to work within the before phase 3 to be able to respond to common foundation number 3. But then we can discuss this. Again, it's very flexible on how, as an SFI, you want to implement that. Maybe you already have structure in place in your due diligence about impact measurement capacity. So it's really about a discussion between us to see how you can ask the right questions and make sure your SPO will be ready to give you this data. Then what's important is also to communicate to SPO reporting requirements in your agreement. So we provide you here a checklist. It's up to you to use it or not, but we think in your side letter with SPO, it's important to communicate transparently and tell them what type of data they will have to use. So I already told you that, but demographic data, intended social and environmental outcomes, indicators, intended stakeholders, SDGs, reports on those indicators annually. Also to tell them that potentially we'll have additional impact data in the years to come, and that they have to collect and submit to you this data using the Common Impact Data Standards. Investors do this by using aligned software. So it's the same for SFIs. SPOs need to use a software. As I mentioned before, there are several free software options for SPOs. And of course, there are reasonable exceptions that are expected and encouraged depending on the size of the organization, the size of the investment. So for example, we know that microcredit organizations are not going to ask for software. So it's very flexible. We can discuss this with your wholesaler about the potential option for your SPOs depending on your type of investment. Branch. And then so recommended activities, and we're going to give you also a lot of communication material to communicate to your SPOs, but as I mentioned, SPOs will need also to use software to store the impact data. And then, as I said already, but phase 1 and 2 spreadsheet tools will be supported. Phase 3 software aligned with the Common Impact Data Standard will be required, and then it's exactly the same, well, not exactly the same process because we're going to have a lot of SPOs, but they're using aligned software. It's great, it's working, it's going to work, we're all set. And the SPO is using a software, a custom platform that is not aligned with the Common Impact Data Standard. Same thing, we're going to contact the SPO software provider or the technical team to discuss potential alignment and help them support them in their alignment. And finally, if the SPO does not use any software, well, the SPO will need to choose, and then we have online resources to help them to choose the software that provides, the best fit for their impact measurement needs and internal capacities. About spreadsheet tools. So what we're doing is we're currently working to accommodate spreadsheet tools, as I said, for phase 1 and 2. We're going to provide some resources to help you align your spreadsheet-based tools with the Common Impact Data Standards. Phase 1, so in the next year, we'll provide service by human. So potentially me or my colleague Michaela can help you to do that. And then we're going to provide some videos and how to document. One spreadsheet tool that is coming very fast and is currently ready, we're just waiting for approval on the platform, is Airtable. So if you're using Airtable, it's going to be very easy for you to align to the Common Impact Data Standard. However, and I said that already a couple of times, but we highly recommend that you use software as soon as possible, because even right now, you starting your investment, we know you're not ready. We know that you don't have impact data from your investees, but as the complexity of the data is going to evolve over time, and if you choose a first option and then you have to move to another option, it's going to be heavy for you. So we really recommend you that you start thinking about your software early on in the process. Some data that will be required at some point will not be able to be collected with spreadsheets without losing certain relationships or links or having some duplication. So organization will inevitably face the need of using a software at some point. And then one of the recommended activities for sure is that, well, you can also provide SPOs to your SPOs impact measurement and management capacity building support. So they can decide, like SFIs, maybe you have in your own team people that are, expert in impact measurement. So it's interesting for you to provide them support, help them on selecting their indicator, their outcome, their themes, etc., to make sure that they put the correct information into the data standards. And you can decide to do it yourself. You can decide also to refer to different programs. So there's going to be some capacity building activities, some material that will be developed by wholesalers, by Common Approach, maybe also a network of impact measurement capacity builder. So there's a lot of trainers, consultants, accelerators out there that are already, you know, providing this kind of content. So we recommend you to look at that and provide this kind of support to help your SPOs. And also, yeah, wholesaler working on capacity building program planning. You will have more information to come in the next few weeks or months. And finally, what you're interested in also is how you can roll up outcomes and indicators into your framework. So how can you group indicators together? So what we going to provide also is some support about telling your story about your different SPOs indicators. So all SPOs indicators and outcomes are going to be in your software because you're collecting them, you're going to import them. You're going to have maybe a lot of indicators, very different indicators. The work we're doing with the common framework is to help you and guide you on grouping those dissimilar indicators and outcomes into what we call headlines indicators. And then from this, we can help SFI create their own aggregation using their own framework or like custom framework or link to specific standards. So linking those headlines indicators into outcomes and linking it to SIEM. So we're going to provide some support to do that. And this will come when you start to have some impact data from your SPOs. And from that, well, we can, you know, tell a story about your portfolio and analyze it. And we're going to have some info session later about this, specifically about the common framework, because it's not going to take you, it's not going to take us 10 minutes to explain that. So we're going to have another info session around that.